Welcome to episode 255 of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench podcast network. He's Tom Albano. I'm Nick Morgasen. Follow us on social media for Empty the Bench at ETB Sports, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Follow our show. Find everything out that we're doing. If you want to follow us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, approaching 900 subscribers and getting close to 1,000. So please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. If you can't watch on the video side, listen on the audio side as well. Listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, you know the drill by now. It's on every podcast platform. So please go check it out as well. And also our show and the network is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators or communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. And if you're watching this tonight,
on premiere night.
It's premiere night, and actually you can watch two things at the same time, which is tough, but you can put us on one side and you can watch our NBA whip around on the other side. So maybe you do that. But join us tonight, 6:45 p.m. Eastern time, as we bring you an NFL Red Zone style broadcast featuring five NBA games: Celtics, Pacers, Pistons, 76ers, the revenge game, Lakers, Cavs, Knicks, Heat, and Nets, Grizzlies. So if you like NFL Red Zone style stuff, you'll enjoy this because we're doing this for the NBA side. So if you want to check us out, join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. This is going to be fun. I'm glad the NBA season is back. So make sure you come check us out. So
there's actually a lot of NBA to talk about on tonight's episode too.
Yes.
One of your favorites in the whole wide world, Joel Embiid, came under NBA investigation. And very recently, actually, I think hours before we started recording this episode, the NBA officially came down on the 76ers. Well, depends what your definition of come down is.
If you consider $100,000 coming down on a team, which is like chump change, then okay.
And then there's a quote that you said about a week or so ago, actually 2 weeks ago, when we talked about Joel Embiid last, and you had called him the new Kawhi Leonard. Well, it's very funny that you said that 2 weeks ago, because now the Clippers are being sued by an ex-trainer for wrongful termination, and it all relates to Kawhi Leonard.
I mean, this is a classic situation of we don't want a whistleblower, so we're just going to fire. But here's the problem. When you fire somebody today and you don't have proper reasonings for it, you're going to get sued. And that's what happened.
The WNBPA, which we kind of touched upon last week. We were off last week for the NBA tip-off stream. We talked about that there. Dwayne Wade, what the hell is that statue?
I mean, somebody said that it looks like Antoine Walker.
I mean, I thought the Cristiano Ronaldo statue was bad. This is probably up there.
And Dwayne Wade apparently had say in this statue, which scares me more.
I know. A couple of NFL stories involving guns. One very recently breaking with Jameson Williams, the Lions receiver, who was briefly placed under arrest earlier this month, and we just found that out now. And then in another situation, one of the Broncos receivers, Josh Reynolds, who was previously with the Rams, was shot in the arm and in the back of the head, but managed to somehow be okay.
Yeah, incredible situations going on in the NFL. And just, that's not the first, that's the second incident we're finding out about Jameson Williams, by the way, because if you remember, Jameson Williams right now is suspended for PED violation.
Yep. So not looking great with him. There are a couple of NFL. We'll talk about an interesting trade that happened only because we talked about the Chiefs and we threw out the idea of Devontae Adams potentially going there before he got traded to the Jets. Well, the Chiefs do have a new receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, and we'll talk about an interesting move We're not going to get to all the NFL trades, rumors, and such, but
there's too much.
But there is an interesting move going on at quarterback with the Colts, and considering the standing that the Colts are in right now, that's a little confusing. Unfortunately, we do have to start with the World Series. We are recording this for full context while Game 4 is in progress. Right now, the Yankees are down 2-1 in the third inning. And I hate saying this because I don't want to come off as a sour fan like you are sometimes, but it is pretty much unofficially done.
I mean, and people got mad at me because after Game 1, I said that this is basically a wrap. And because if you look at the statistics,
I don't think it was a wrap. I don't think it was a wrap after Game 1 in terms of, because if they won in LA, my feeling was they needed to win at least one game in LA. The problem
that hurt the way they lost Game 1.
The way they lost Game 1.
Because they pretty much, I don't know if I was going to say have it in the bag. You can't really say you have a World Series game in the bag, but the way they played Game 1, they should have won.
Right. And there are several comments to make about that. Number one, why the hell was Nestor Cortez coming in over Tim Hill? Number two, why did you intentionally walk Mookie Betts, who was 1 for 4 in the game, and got Freddie Freeman, and who, prior to that at bat, I got you back. Prior to that at bat, the last 13 times prior to at bat, right, he came up with the bases loaded. 9 times he hit a grand slam. Did the statistics tell you that one?
Yeah, I mean, they totally screwed that one up. I don't know what Aaron Boone is thinking.
By the way, Freddie Freeman is going to be, once the Dodgers wrap this series up, he's going to unanimously be the MVP by far.
Now, I understand, they're saying that it's happened once where a World Series team was down 0-3 and came back.
No, it's never happened in the World Series. It happened against the Yankees in the ALCS with the Red Sox.
So, yeah, everyone say, "Oh, well, it happened once. It could happen again." All right, can we calm down a little?
We've seen the Yankees 1996. They were down 0-2 to the Braves, swept in Atlanta, and then ended up winning Game 6 in New York. But nobody
was also a much better team, in my opinion.
Nobody was down 0-3. Well, if we're going to throw around blame, yeah, Aaron Boone managed the game like crap several times, but there is one LVP to this Yankees postseason, and unfortunately, it's Aaron Judge.
Yeah, Aaron Judge has looked terrible. I've been screaming at the screen multiple times. We actually, surprisingly, were able to watch, what game was it? It was Game 3. We were able to watch
two. I think you were watching 2.
Yeah, 2 on Playback, and he's swinging over every breaking ball. I don't understand what is going on. And they did a good pitch track feature with his swing, that his timing is off between the fastball, which he's hitting the bottom of, and the breaking ball he's swinging over. So his timing is in between, and he's either making loud outs or he's not striking out. Correct. And what's scaring me even more, Stanton and Soto. Now, Soto I kind of expected because he's Soto, but Stanton is the guy who's had the big hits and kept them in the playoffs. Now, you can say that Judge had one big hit off a Class A in the Guardians series, which if they didn't, that series is prolonged and goes longer. But he's done nothing. Zero. We're paying this guy $350 million. He's not doing anything.
Juan Soto hasn't exactly been heating it up as either. And just, you talked about that Guardian series just now. And one of my things was, and I talked about it with you, when the Yankees beat the Guardians in the ALCS, you said the way that the Guardians were playing in terms of the fielding, you're not going to win a pennant based on the way that they played. But the way that the Yankees have fielded and the way that the Yankees have run the bases, in Sterling's own words during the ALCS, running like drunks, you're not going to win a World Series against a Dodgers team based on that.
Yes, and it's like bad news bears defense in the World Series.
Here's my question. Why is our third base coach sending Giancarlo Stanton of all people?
Yeah, that one confused me when that play happened. I understand it's 2 outs, but live to see another at bat at least. I understand you don't get a chance very often because it's 2 outs and you have a hit and you want to score, but the guy was barely at third base when Teoscar fields that throw.
I will say this, and I hate saying this because it tears at me the night that this is probably going to be over, whether it be the night we're recording this or the night that this show actually airs. You know, it is a successful season for the Yankees, their first pennant in 50. Nick, come on.
And I'm not saying because of me. I'm saying because we know what the reputation and the expectations are in New York.
I know. Unfortunately, that is an old era.
True, and I understand, but Yankee fans.
Trust me, it pains me. It's like that meme where it's like there's the mask with the big smiley face,
Yes.
and then you see the ang. It pains me that it is a different era, but it is a different era, and you also have to make mention this is their first pennant in 15 years. The Mets had a more recent pennant than the Yankees,
and the problem is fundamentally, like up to this point, fundamentally they've been okay. All the fundamentals have fallen apart in the World Series between Gleyber Torres forgetting how to field the ball on a relay throw.
Okay. Well, honestly, Nick, that's not all Gleyber. It is, but some of that also goes to Soto for the fact that he waited for the ball and just casually threw it. You are supposed to be the 25-year-old, big who's supposed to get the bag at the end of this offseason. You cannot be making a throw like that so nonchalantly.
I agree, but at the same time, go to the ball, at least if you know the throw is bad.
And where was the pitcher to back up the throw?
So if I remember what they said in the broadcast, the pitcher was covering third for the bad throw. So, and Rizzo, I think, was out of position all the way over at first, which made no sense.
But again, you're not going to win. You're not going to win a World Series if you're playing this fundamentals. But let me go back to what I was trying to say. Yes, it hurts because this was the only chance of a World Series with the current group of core. Because again, depending on what happens, whether you're signing Soto or you're going out and re-signing Gleyber and then trading for Arenado, or you're signing Alonso, whatever it is, it sucks. But and we agree this. We talked about this on the ALCS. The Dodgers were under much more pressure to win this World Series.
For the amount of money they spent, yes.
Yes. That's the problem, is that the Dodgers. Now listen, and I said this to a colleague earlier, this one World Series is not enough for the Dodgers. We talked about when they signed Shohei and talked about all that money being deferred. You got to win. Now, I don't even know if 2 is enough. Over the next 10 years, you got to win at least 3 World Series.
For $700 million total.
To make up for I was going to say, to make up for the fact that in 10 years, once all that deferred money hits, you're going to see the Dodgers basically be the worst team in baseball, most likely.
Let's not forget, the Dodgers are the king of deferred money. Freddie Freeman's contract is a lot deferred. If I'm not mistaken, I think even Teoscar Hernandez, who signed a contract, has deferred money. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the Shohei contract, which, by the way, the Dodgers held a collective sigh of relief when he slid into second base, and there were a lot of people saying they thought he tore his shoulder or worse. And
that just shows you how much of a machine he is, the fact that he's playing through.
Can I point out one thing, by the way, and I'm sure you saw me put the video up on our social media pages. Yankee fans, not us, but Yankee fans are despicable.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the brethren of ours that we have to deal with.
If people don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, so he slides to the second base. He's riding over in pain. Like, it looked bad.
But here's the problem, Nick. You know what Shohei Ohtani has done in this World Series?
Everything?
No, nothing. He's done the exact same as Aaron Judge.
Didn't he homer?
No. That's been Freddie Freeman. That's been Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, Kiki Hernandez.
Actually, he hit the double, which almost gave them the lead in that other game.
That's one hit. He's done nothing else.
Okay, you're right. I'm not disagreeing, but Yankee fans are despicable because in that bar, I don't remember, it's one of those bars that's right around Yankee Stadium, and they're cheering, and if you in the video, one fan is like flipping a middle finger at him while he's riding down in pain on the ground.
Well, guess what? You even if he did not play in Game 3,
they probably would have lost anyway.
Right. So you're done. Up in smoke. it sucks. I'll take having a pennant for the first time in 15 years. But and Nick, you kind of had a feeling when the Dodgers and Mets were the two teams in the NLCS. You had to have a feeling this was not going to end well. Either situation, considering the Dodgers and who they are, and the Mets for the fact that they swept the Yankees during.
I think they would have had a better opportunity against the Mets.
Yeah.
But
but I will agree. I think I know where you're going. We don't expect to be down 0-3 to the Dodgers.
Well, that, and I didn't think the pitching was as good for the Dodgers as it's come out to be. Walker Buehler.
They've been unhealthy during the season, but they got their health during this postseason. I give them credit to that.
I thought I read and I thought I heard them say during the broadcast they didn't have a 100-inning pitcher during the season or close to it because of all the injuries, which that's incredible, by the way. They did have a 100-inning pitcher. Which,
by the way, that's another thing. Like, I get potentially needing to Garrett Cole for more than one occasion, maybe 3 occasions in this World Series, but Derek even talked about this, like, really? You're the ace of this team. You're supposed to go 100 pitches.
That was one of the most head-scratching moves in Game 1. Garrett Cole, who gets into a small amount of trouble in the 7th inning, he's at 88 pitches. Let him pitch. He's paid to pitch. Last time I checked, he's not paid to spectate. Let him pitch. Mm-hmm. Maybe your bullpen doesn't get screwed over as much if you go to them sooner.
Maybe you actually bring in Tim Hill and not Nestor. And look, I know Nestor has another year of arbitration. I would be happy trading him. I would be happy sending him in a package.
But here's the questionable thing about that whole situation. You have 2 lefties up, so which didn't make sense, number one. But unless you were looking for Cortez to pitch long term into the game.
But my point is, I understand Stroman's issues, but let's say now Nestor is either in the bullpen or gone after the season. Stroman then's at least your 5. You have Heel, you have Schmidt, you have Garrett Cole, you have Carlos Rodon.
First of all, but look at Hill's ERA up until that point. I think it was like 1.59.
Yeah.
In the postseason. Let him pitch. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have given up the home run, but he at least has fastball.
Nestor doesn't have the juice.
No, it was 37 days since he last pitched.
Head scratcher.
So you pretty much threw away Game 1. We can say that pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Then you end up in Game 2, and you're like, all right, let's see what happens. You lay an egg in Game 2. And you're like, all right, now I'm down 0-2. Let's go to Yankee Stadium.
And then Game 3, the bats go cold.
Completely cold. Aaron Judge can't hit. Nobody can hit. I'll give you a scouting report on the Yankee lineup. Just throw them a breaking ball. Just all game. They can't hit it.
All right. I think I'm done trying to be angry. All right. Let's go. Let's let you be angry in a different sense. This is now your time, Mr. NBA. So let's start with this idea. So the NBA got wind of Joel Embiid's comments that we talked about 2 weeks ago about,
shocker.
I'm not going to play I'm probably not going to play when there's the back-to-back games. I'll probably sit at least one of them out. Well, the NBA decided to launch an investigation. I don't know if the investigation itself is complete. However, they are going to fine the 76ers $100,000 for it.
I mean, I almost laugh at this fine because a fine in professional sports means nothing. But this is a classic case of Joel Embiid walking into a investigative situation. Like, basically, Joel Embiid played gotcha with himself because he announced, or they're claiming he announced to the outside world that he's not playing back-to-back games. What did you expect the league to do? The league has partners. They just signed a massive deal, their new deals with the NBA, in the tune of $80 billion for all their partners, which is a record, by the way. And you're one of your biggest stars. I don't know. I don't even know if I call Joel Embiid a star at this point because he doesn't.
Technically, he is,
but he doesn't act like it. But what did you think Adam Silver was going to do? Hey, we'll just let it go that one of our big names said they're not going to play back-to-back games.
All right. Here's the official press release from the NBA. The NBA today fined the Philadelphia 76ers $100,000 for public statements, including by president of basketball operations Daryl Morey and head coach Nick Nurse, that were inconsistent with Joel Embiid's health status and in violation of NBA rules, including the league's player participation policy. The league's investigation also confirmed that Joel Embiid has been unable to play in the 76ers regular season games this season due to a left knee condition, and therefore his games missed have not violated the player participation policy.
Oh, please, give me a break. Like, so they're contradicting themselves, essentially.
Again, is Embiid going to actually do anything at this point?
No.
I mean, pardon me. Is anything not... are the 76ers or anything is actually going to happen? Because if with this investigation now officially being closed, it's just, here's a $100,000 fine. And you said it when we talked about it 2 weeks ago. It's like, well, I guess he's not going to get any more postseason awards ever, but he doesn't care.
Well, you mean end of season awards. But
end of season awards, yeah.
I know what you meant. But yeah. So the fine is basically what you and I, well, you make the joke about all the time. And for people who can't see it on the video side, I'm sorry, you'll hear it. But basically, that's basically what that's what the $100,000 fine is for the 76ers. All right, we had to do something
on the wrist. Yeah,
we had to do something to show that we're asserting ourselves for punishment, because they really couldn't suspend him because the WNBPA would have fought it if he got suspended, which this is a classic situation. I don't know if it's the same thing, but like when A-Rod was being stupid and he got suspended, but Major League Baseball behind the scenes said, I'm sure we don't want to defend this guy, but because he's in Major League Baseball, we have to defend him because he's part of the MLBPA. So I guarantee you behind the scenes, the NBAPA wants nothing to do with Joel Embiid whatsoever.
Well, the problem for the 76ers in their case, they had Paul George, who came into the season with an injury after what happened in the preseason.
He's hurt already. We've barely played.
Right. And now you're dealing with this. These are two guys that you expected. You were expected that these two and Maxey were going to be I don't want to say a big three outright, but a big three-esque kind of.
They're good enough to be a competitive playoff team with those three guys. That's what they should be.
But yes, and they are. And we talked about it with Ben when we did the Cat Breaking News stream. We talked about trying to rank the Eastern Conference teams. Unfortunately for the Sixers, if Embiid is really dealing with this kind of injury, he's not going to play back-to-backs. And you have Paul George, if his health conditions get worse, then that's going to be damaging for this team and its expectations.
What Embiid should have done and what the team should have done, because we see it happen all the time, should have just said, I'm fighting an injury going into the season. It's going to be tough for me to play back-to-back games. Don't say you can't, because that leads to investigation of what's going on behind the organization. At least if you fall behind the injury, the NBA can't say.
Honesty is the best policy, is what you're saying.
Yes. It's amazing. Some of these stars forget, like, if you just be honest, like, the NBA is not going to go after you for saying something. But instead, when you come out and you're stupidly honest, I will call it, then the NBA is going to go after you and say, well, why are we going to put 76er games on TV? Why are we? And the 76ers, I was blown away, like, right before the season started, when the release came out that said, well, Joel Embiid and Paul George are not even going to play the first week or two. And I was like, well, okay, like, 2 stars down right there.
Right. But the Paul George one you kind of expect with the knee condition. It's like, okay, something happened during the preseason. He hurt his knee.
He had a pre-existing condition. Yes.
Well, no, I'm talking about when he got hurt during the preseason game. What was it? The left knee, not a contusion.
It was just a left knee injury. But yeah, which he's had before.
Mm-hmm.
So
But then Joel Embiid all of a sudden isn't going to be ready for the start of the season. It's like, what?
Well, yeah. So Joel Embiid has had an injury history also. But Joel Embiid puts his own foot in his mouth, and that's causing an injury to his ego and his brain at the same time because he doesn't realize that his statements are going to get the 76ers in trouble at the same time. So is this finding a surprise? No. But this is not the worst thing that the NBA could have done.
True. On the other side, again, going back to making that comparison you mentioned 2 weeks ago about Joel Embiid being the new Kawhi Leonard. Well, Kawhi Leonard in the news, his current team, the Clippers, in the news. So Randy Shelton, who was a trainer on the Clippers staff up until the point where he was he was fired. He is now suing the team for wrongful termination. He claims that he was fired after raising concerns about Kawhi Leonard's health. Of course, Nick, for the last several years, Kawhi Leonard has been, if we're talking about load management in the NBA, he has been the face of load management. He has been dealing with a number of injuries. He's been dealing with, trying to get enough rest to the point where the NBA has had to come down on try to figure out ways to get around this idea of load management. So your thoughts here?
So here's the interesting thing. So apparently Randy Shelton is one, how like these guys have teams now when they come out of college, like they usually have a trainer that they work with long term and they have physio and all this health stuff. But apparently he's been with him. Let's see. He joined the Clippers on July 1st, 2019 as strength and conditioning coach after serving in a similar role at San Diego State, where he worked with Leonard before he joined the San Antonio Spurs. So this guy has been working with Leonard for a long time.
Yeah.
Shelton said that he was part of the multi-year effort to recruit Leonard that leapt well beyond the bound of the NBA Constitution with respect to potential tampering violations. And now Shelton is seeking, quote, significant but unspecified damages at trial. So this is not going to be a let's settle this behind the scenes type of scenario. I think the Clippers, and I said it to you before we started, this is the Clippers trying to bury this situation instead of wanting to deal with it and having the trader come out publicly. They just said, bye, there's the door. And now they made it worse.
Yeah, they definitely have made it worse. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm just looking at this headline. And I don't know, it's just got me wondering because the way it's being worded about raising concerns about Kawhi Leonard's health, but the way that Kawhi Leonard has missed games over the course of the last, 3-4 years.
It feels like almost 5 years, the way his injuries have been since Toronto, even though they won a title.
You would think then they would be listening to the trainer, considering that.
Well, the trainer's job is to point out health scenarios so that they don't hurt themselves, and then the team doesn't. It's really more of a business thing for the team. But the Clippers did issue a statement, which I'm kind of scratching my head as I'm reading it now. So here's what they said. Quote, Mr. Shelton's claims were investigated and found to be without merit. We honored Mr. Shelton's employment contract and paid him in full. The team said, quote, this lawsuit is a belated attempt to shake down the Clippers based on accusations that Mr. Shelton should know are false. What?
Well, here's from the CBS story, the CBS Sports story. Shelton claims that the Clippers subjected Leonard to, quote, unsafe and illegal treatment in disregard for Leonard's health and safety and no medical restrictions. Then after Shelton complained about this alleged unsafe and illegal treatment, they targeted, discriminated against, and harassed Shelton, ultimately terminating his employment. Shelton also claims that his hiring was, quote, the culmination of a multi-year campaign to sign Leonard, quote, in disregard for the NBA's prohibition on tampering. I mean, you put NBA and tampering in the same sentence.
That's just disaster written all over it. I mean, but for them to come out and say that his claims were without merit and saying the lawsuit is a belated attempt to shake down the Clippers, are we really going to go down that route?
Well, do you want to hear these claims in specific detail? Because CBS Sports actually lists all the different claims.
It says here in the lawsuit, Shelton said the Clippers first contacted him in 2017 after Leonard, who was then under the contract. Okay, so if that's the case, that's tampering, number one, because you can't go out and from one organization being represented to another, you can't go and talk to somebody under contract.
Right. I agree, but this is also the NBA we're talking about. How do they treat tampering, Nick? You know.
No, I get it, but basically, if you really want to go much further, Mr. Shelton is whistleblowing a little bit here.
Well, there's more. Over the course of 15 phone conversations and, quote, at least 7 meetings with Shelton before Leonard became a free agent, Hughes repeatedly pressed for information regarding Leonard's needs. When I say Hughes, I'm talking about Clippers executive Mark Hughes.
Yeah.
Communicating the Clippers' desire to sign him and discussing hiring Shelton as a strength and conditioning coach. Frank met with Shelton about February of 2019 while Leonard was playing for the Raptors to discuss Leonard's willingness to join the Clippers, to communicate to Leonard through Shelton and to assure Shelton that he could join the Clippers staff if Leonard signed with the team. Then, of course, after he wins the NBA championship with the Toronto Raptors that year, he does go and signs with the Clippers.
He wanted to be in LA. That was a fact.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the offseason where PG-13 joined him too, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that was when they tried to build the super team.
Right. After the Clippers signed Leonard and hired Shelton, the role Shelton was promised on the performance staff, quote, quickly diminished as their hiring of Todd Wright meant that Shelton had little agency to do anything other than the work with Leonard, isolating him from the rest of the team. The Clippers deliberately excluded Shelton from meetings and withheld necessary medical treatment and information that impacted Leonard's training and health. Leonard should have been sidelined for a full 2 years, according to this lawsuit, after tearing his ACL in the 2021 playoffs. But the Clippers insisted he return at the beginning of the 22-23 season and only reluctantly agreed to a load management plan.
Yeah.
Wright, quote, berated Shelton and told him that no one wanted him around during a meeting in December of 2022 after Shelton formally requested leave of absence. The Clippers ignored Kawhi Leonard's concussion symptoms when he was hit in the face during a game on March 25th, 2023.
This has disaster written all over it. I mean, this is basically going to become, in the court system, a battle of he said, she said.
Right. This is going to end one of two ways. Either this lawsuit is going to get out. I mean, this lawsuit is going to get thrown out quickly and be called frivolous, or the Los Angeles Clippers are going to be in a ton of crap.
Well, the problem is the NBA needs to be brought to the carpet too, because they didn't do anything in this situation. They pretty much swept it under the rug and said, we're not dealing with it. You deal with it. You do what you want, which led to what allegedly a wrongful termination in the process of this, because someone who was actually, whose job it is as a trainer to protect players, is telling you that the organization only cares about business and not about the health of the players. Gee, is that the first time we've heard that before? No.
Mm-hmm.
And this is bad. Like, I think he's going to get a settlement of some sort. I think just because you wrongfully terminated a guy who was trying to tell you the truth that he shouldn't be playing.
Mm-hmm. But yet, I don't expect the NBA to do anything because I don't know, the NBA league itself and administration, and we've talked about this several times over the course of years, considering now the NBA is a player's first league, the NBA, it feels powerless at this point to expect that anything's going to happen with the Clippers.
Well, so it says Shelton said he was, quote, promised a bright future with the Clippers.
Yeah.
And that at the time he, quote, had a thriving business in San Diego and a respected position with San Diego State. So there's a lot of alleged claims being made. Mm-hmm. So now the court system is going to have to sort through all these alleged claims and figure out who's right, who's wrong, who is this a whistleblower situation. This also says that Clippers personnel attended, which I think you said, attended many of Leonard's games in Toronto during the 2018-2019 season, and the team was fined $50,000 by the NBA in May of 2019 for then Clippers coach Doc Rivers' public comments that compared Leonard to Michael Jordan, which I didn't know. I didn't know you could get fined for comparing a player to a player. I didn't know that. That's a first.
I guess suspicion of tampering. But again, if you're talking about Nick, you were just talking about Joel Embiid's fine, the 76ers fine with the Joel Embiid situation, $100,000 being a slap on the wrist, $50,000. That's a
No one
love
cares.
tap. That's
Yeah,
a love tap.
So I don't know. This whole thing is a joke. The Clippers organization is a joke. They will always be second fiddle, second banana to the Laker organization, as bad as the Laker organization has been. But now throwing this tampering situation plus a lawsuit for wrongful termination, like the Clippers are going to, even if they win, they're always going to look bad.
Yeah, it's not a good look for them. Also on the basketball business front, the WNBPA has opted out of their CBA agreement. Players are now looking for, quote, a bigger piece of the pie after the WNBA had increases in profit, increases in attention, et cetera, everything that we talked about with this season between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese arriving on the scene, the New York Liberty being the New York Liberty and capturing a championship, because that's the only New York team, I guess, that's going to come close to or actually capturing a championship at this point.
Unless you count NYCFC.
NYCFC. By the way, Monday night was the sports equinox.
Yes.
So you had all four of the major sports leagues, plus you had soccer. And New York became the first city to lose an MLB, NFL, NBA, and MLS game on the same night.
Well, and the Giants and the Jets both lost in the same weekend.
Yeah.
So, I'm just reading through some of the info. So this deal, even though they opted out, goes through one more season. So they opted out. This will go into effect on Halloween of 2025. So a year from Halloween, this deal will be over. The two sides have a year to come to an agreement. Now, a year is a long time, but
if you sit on it, we know how fast time goes. Oh, all of a sudden now we just have 3 months.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of bitching and moaning back and forth between the two sides. And
well, I will say, I think the players do deserve a piece of the pie.
They do. Of course they do.
Because you look how the WNBA has greatly benefited from, everybody from, if we're going to talk about this past season, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese arriving on the scene. And if we're going to talk about past seasons, how about somebody like a Sabrina Ionescu who arrived on the scene? And look what's happened with all of the star power. The Las Vegas Aces and their three-peat, the Liberty winning and bringing all their attention with New York. Like, there has just been so much good. I think, didn't I say earlier this year, I said, if we're talking about within the social media era of professional sports, there's been no league that has benefited more, in my opinion, as of late, over the last 5 or so years, than the WNBA.
I mean, I think I said this a while back. The rest of the WNBA should be writing thank you notes to Caitlin Clark and to Angel Reese, because they've raised the perspective profile of the WNBA as a whole for everything that they do on the court and off the court. So
yeah, because you knew with what's her name, Kathy Engelberg as the commissioner, it was going to be very difficult to get some of the. Do you remember when the Liberty got fined for
the charter plane? Yes.
Yeah,
because apparently the WNBA players are not allowed to fly on a charter private plane or jet, which that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. If your owner is willing to spend, and by the way, that's the owners of the Nets organization that own the Liberty, who are willing to spend the money to put them up on a private charter, got fined. And my head spun around like The Exorcist when when I'm reading this story. Like, if your owner, you're telling an owner that they shouldn't spend money when most of the time the owners put the money in their pocket, let them spend. I mean,
unbelievable.
And also, the same as the NBA, the WNBA just got new TV rights. Also, so they just signed an 11-year deal also with Disney, Amazon, and NBC. Yeah. Their rights are now worth $200 million a year.
You better give the players some of that change. I mean, you got to give the players some of the, as it says, a piece of that pie and not some change.
Right. And they're also claiming that there's health benefit issues and insurance claim issues, which they have to figure that out, and pension issues and all that stuff. And also, they're expanding. They're
Mhm.
adding Golden State is adding a WNBA team. I think that's next season.
Are we gonna see another? Are we gonna see another Steph Curry emerge in Golden State
That would be incredible.
on the women's end? Yeah.
And then in 2026, Toronto and Portland will be launching franchises. So they're ahead of the movement here, the WNBA. They know that the attention is back for the sport to really make some money. It also says players are prepared to negotiate for as long as it takes. And it says it even means a work stoppage could come in a year from now.
I would hope not. That would hurt their momentum so badly.
Brianna Stewart is the vice president of the Players Association for the WNBA. So that helps considering that she just won a title.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I got to give credit to NBC. I mean, they're really getting in on the basketball game on all ends. They're going to get the NBA back, and they're going to get the WNBA.
Yeah, and I think they're going to pay the money because you're going to see Tarico and Eagles' son Noah
Yeah.
calling games. And by the way, there was an interesting news front. Quickly, I'll mention it in passing. Did you see that Ian Eagle might be the number one play-by-play guy for Amazon?
For the NBA?
For the NBA.
I like that.
So...
Granted, that's as long as the NBA finishes with its legal issues with its TV rights on their end.
Right. So, I'm just reading quickly. So this is from, Kathy Engelbert, my favorite person. Engelbert said at her State of the League address before Game 1 of the NBA Finals that she has engaged with union leadership throughout the year. I suspect that given the transformation of the league that we've been working so hard on, building a long-term economic model, we've already returned to the players through charter, through increasing playoff bonuses a couple years ago by over 50%. That's a couple years ago when there was no money. So we'll continue. So we'll continue to do that, and when we get to the bargaining table, we'll continue to talk about the issues that are more important to the players. You mean like they don't make any money?
And they need insurance, and they need benefits.
I mean, this is no longer, and this is no offense to the WNBA from years ago, where it was just like wallpaper or watching paint dry. There's great product now involved in the WNBA, especially with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. By the way, the Indiana Fever fired their head coach.
Yeah, I did see that.
I don't know if that was a Caitlin Clark thing. She's going to claim she didn't, but I don't know if I believe that. But that's a story for another day. But this is the clearest, most obvious thing I was expecting.
Let's end on something funny. The Dwayne Wade statue. What the hell is that face? Yeah, because Dwayne Wade had old man face for all of his career, right?
Yeah, really. I mean,
that is horrifying. I now want to see. Like, tomorrow is Halloween. I want to see somebody as their Halloween costume have a mask.
Yes.
That's just a Dwayne Wade face, statue face.
And by the way, apparently he had some say over helping this statue, which kind of scares me more.
But didn't he make the comments of didn't he make a comment that kind of was it self-degrading the statue?
He said, "I don't know a lot of people with a statue." That was one of the quotes. He said, he said, "I care, but I don't." Wade said, "The social media world is about opinions. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone use y'all opinions. Please talk more about us. Talk more about a statue. Come on down to see it. Take some photos and send some memes. We don't care."
Tim Walz, who's the vice presidential candidate for Kamala Harris, said he called it horrific. Former Warriors guard. Let me see who this is, so that way I get their name right. Because Baron Davis.
Oh, Baron Davis.
He had a good one. Why'd they give D Wade a Temu statue?
Yeah, I saw that going around.
I'm sorry, that looks horrifying.
It is horrifying. I'm looking at the face again. It looks like It literally looks like they took his head and aged it like 100 years. I mean,
So here's my question: what is a worse statue, this or that? Remember that Cristiano Ronaldo one from like 2017,
yes,
2018?
yeah.
Which is a worse statue?
Oh man,
I might have to still say Ronaldo just because of the facial expression on
the
that Ronaldo.
the Ronaldo one is bad, but the Wade one doesn't even look like him in his face.
The Wade one doesn't. The Wade one looks like him as an old man, but the Ronaldo one, the face was just like it was
So
ridiculous.
it says here, though he was quick to defend the artist that made the statue of him, he knows they just have to laugh, brush off criticism, and move on. Quote, I don't know a lot of people with a statue. Do you? He said, anybody here, you all know anything about the process of a statue? No one out there do neither. And so it's an unbelievable process to be part of, and it's a complicated process.
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a statue.
No. They're talking about like giving shit to the artist.
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't look like you, man. Your head doesn't look like that. Some people were saying it looked like Antoine Walker. And we all know what happened to Antoine Walker. He went completely bankrupt.
Wait a minute. I wasn't ready. Damn it, I wasn't ready for that. Because you said bankrupt. Wait a minute. What? Oh. The StreamYard's layout changed when it comes to the branding. So I'm like completely lost there. Okay. There we go.
So the amount of memes that people are doing, like they're putting like Bosch and LeBron and Wade like on the face, like that was funny. There was some funny. You knew that was going to be memeable as soon as it came out.
The memes are going to come for the rest of the year now.
It's and I'll laugh at every single one. Like I don't.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? You know, tomorrow. I mean, later tonight on our whip around. Any of the pregame stuff or halftime stuff, if any of that's going to involve Dwayne Wade statue.
Oh, I'm going to bring it up a million times at least.
But you reminded me, after we're done here, I have to watch, because I missed it last week, because we were watching the playback feed. Charles Barkley's this year's attempt at playing who he play for. Or where is he now?
Yes. Oh God.
Because that's where we got no. The reason I bring that up is because that's where we got a very famous sound effect from. One that we love. So many years ago when they played that for the first time was him and Shaq. That's where we got
Guangdong Tigers. Ni hao! Ni hao! Ni hao!
Yep.
Which, by the way, did you see that Dylan Brooks got into a fight on the court recently?
Yes, we were talking about it on the stream. I said, "Oh, look, he was tackling Wemby,
and he got ejected." Already, Dylan Brooks starting. I think he was when I did a couple of those Guangdong Tigers meme, he was a victim of one of them.
Well, that sounds about right. They should send him to China and never allow him to come back.
All right, NBA stories, NFL stories. This one very recently developing. Jameson Williams briefly placed under arrest earlier this month due to a gun charge.
Yeah, but read the last sentence. That's the most concerning one.
Williams was released with no charge. So what the hell happened? And of course, Nick, the question we always bring up when it comes to legal situations and then developing later on, we find out later, why are we just finding out about this now?
Well, it started with number one, that he was suspended 2 games for PED violation, or I don't even know if it was a PED. I think it was an illegal substance violation because they don't know exactly what it was. So he's been suspended for 2 games. He's serving that now. And then we find out that he gets arrested or briefly placed under arrest due to a gun charge earlier this month. And the story goes that supposedly he had 2 guns in the car that he was driving around. They were registered.
That was going to be my next question.
Under his name, but they said he didn't have I can't remember the name of the thing, the license thing or whatever, to
proper paperwork.
Yeah. So he should have been arrested for the guns.
Okay, his brother. It's actually his brother that informed police. His brother was with him. One was registered to him. It was in the back seat, while the other registered to Williams was found under the football player's seat. Williams' brother had a concealed pistol license. That's what you were looking for.
That's it.
CPL.
Yes.
Williams himself did not. Williams, say, here's what pisses me off about somebody getting arrested. He said, I play for the Lions, bro. Why?
That reminds me, not that it's the same exact thing, the Tony La Russa getting arrested for the DUI. And he's like, I'm the manager of the White Sox. Okay.
Why flaunt that when you're getting arrested? Like, that's going to get you out of an arrest. I think that gets you into a worse situation.
You think the cops care that you're a professional athlete?
No.
They can't risk their job over saying, oh, well, he's a Lions player, whatever.
When the sergeant arrived, he quickly recognized Williams and then made some phone calls with higher-ranking officials. At first, it looked like Williams was going to be taken to jail, but after further discussions, the sergeant was evidently directed to release him from custody.
I'm wondering if, because a lot of times when they get arrested or players get arrested, there's usually a head of security for their security team for whatever organization or team you're playing for.
Okay, because the next part, here's actually something important. In light of the incident, the Detroit Police Department submitted a warrant request to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for Williams, who now could face a charge of carrying a concealed weapon in a motor vehicle.
But here's the problem. He should have been arrested on the spot and taken in, is what they're claiming. And they let him go.
Yeah, this is a problem. You're a bleeping hero. Thank you so much. The sergeant can be heard saying while on the phone in the footage obtained by this.
That's even worse.
Even worse. Williams was freed, his gun was returned, and a police report was not written.
That's even worse.
Unless the higher ranking officials have something on, let's say, digital record that says that Williams does have some sort of the proper paperwork or PCL.
Yeah, but I thought you have to have it somewhere near you or on you.
That's what I mean. Like, I guess then it's okay, but I don't know. This is just such a bad look all around. The fact that they released him after several high-ranking phone calls. Williams himself said, I play for the Lions, bro.
No one cares.
He's already facing a PD suspension. Wasn't he suspended like a season or two ago, too?
I think so, yeah.
This is not good. I'm sorry.
I mean, he's a big part of the team, so he will come back after 2 games. And somehow the Lions will get this whole thing resituated and thrown out somehow, because that's what the NFL is known for and does it.
What's that I hear in the distance? Nick, I hear 2 checks Goodell coming.
Well, I don't know what 2 checks. I don't know what his salary is for the.
Well, or at the very least in the dumpster fire, boys, his words. The wheel of discipline. Let's see. Is it going to be 2 checks? Is it going to be 2 games? Is it going to be the entire season? Who knows?
Is it going to be nothing? Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is dumb. I mean,
and it's worse considering that we're just coming off of the story, the transition, that Broncos wide receiver Josh Reynolds was coming back from, I think he was at a strip club.
Of course he was.
And he was shot in the arm and the back of the head.
God, this reminds me of that other, who was the NBA? Oh, it was Morant.
Ja Morant, yeah.
I don't know what it is with athletes and going to strip clubs and like guns being involved, and like maybe just don't do it. Maybe just like try to behave when you're in the middle of a season. Like, I don't get this. Like, behave. You have a privilege as an athlete. You get paid a lot of money to, as in your words, play a children's game.
But this isn't Josh Reynolds' fault.
No. But I'm just saying, like, it's wrong place, wrong time, though. Like, is what I'm saying. Like,
police documents indicated Reynolds was shot in the left arm and the back of the head outside a strip club early Friday morning. The Broncos said in a statement that Reynolds received treatment for minor injuries. Out of respect for the legal process, we will defer further comment on this matter to the authorities, who I believe, they did announce, Denver police, that they did arrest 2 people earlier last week in connection to the case, but they are still working to maybe potentially lock up some more people.
My
Okay,
point
here's
is,
the story. Okay, here's the story. Reynolds left the club in an SUV with 2 other men, at which point they were followed by multiple vehicles and shots were fired. The party told police they were followed onto the highway and at one point were pursued by 4 vehicles before the car stopped working and they fled on foot. The police stated that 2 men, one of whom was Reynolds, were brought to the hospital for treatment of non-life-threatening injuries. Reynolds did not travel. The shooting occurred on the same night as the Broncos' Week 7 game in New Orleans on Thursday Night Football, but he did not travel with the team because he's on the injured reserve.
that's even worse. He's on the IR and he's out doing whatever. And again, you're right. I'm not saying it's his fault for this happening, but you're putting yourself at risk by being out.
I understand what you're saying, but it's also not his fault that he.
I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm far from saying it's his fault. But you're putting yourself in a scenario when these athletes go out and they party or they go to a club, and remember, they're big time names because they're on a professional team. People are crazy. They will do anything, including shooting at an athlete, to get near them.
All right, couple of other stories just to end today's show.
This is interesting.
DeAndre Hopkins. So the Chiefs were in the need of a receiver after Rashee Rice's bad injury that's going to leave him out for probably the rest of the season. They were in the mix, of course, for potentially, they were one of the teams that were rumored to potentially land Devontae Adams. He goes to the Jets. So the Chiefs, in response, get DeAndre Hopkins. Now, is DeAndre Hopkins the player that he once was 5 years ago? No, but I don't think the Chiefs need that DeAndre Hopkins. They need the current DeAndre Hopkins because you know what? They still have Travis Kelce who can catch balls. They still have Xavier Worthy. And now you add DeAndre Hopkins to the mix.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great veteran option for a team that really needed a pass catcher. That's what you're not going to see DeAndre Hopkins of old where he's running down the field for 50, 60 yards. No, I'm saying that that's not who he is anymore. You're a 15, 20, 30-yard catch guy, which is still good. It gives you another weapon. And magically, the Chiefs and Mahomes are 7-0 with all the BS that have gone on around them. And
during the offseason,
and just all the issues. And somehow they have no losses, and look at where they are. They're heading for the 1 seed.
Right. And they lost their running back, but surprise, Kareem Hunt is now back with the team and is helping them out. Mahomes is being Mahomes. He's got Worthy. He's got Juju Smith-Schuster and Justin Watson and Sky Moore. And now you add DeAndre Hopkins to the mix.
And their defense is way better than it was in years past.
Yeah, that's been probably their biggest improvement because there were concerns last season about the way their defense was. And I talked about that, I think, during the NFL preview. Or it was brought up during the NFL preview because you did the AFC portion. But their defense looks great.
What people are saying is, like, when they won their titles, it was all because they out-offensed everybody. Now, their defense, people are saying, is better than their offense in certain games.
Nick, the way that everything is going between them doing well and the 49ers looking like crap, I'm sorry. The Chiefs right now feel like that they're in a safe place that they're going to get the three-peat.
Probably. I mean, I don't see another scenario where anyone is really much better than they are. I think the Ravens are going to make a run at them. But
the Ravens are going to make a run at them. The Texans are a strong young team, but now they're still waiting for Nico Collins to come back next week in Week 10. But now they just lost Stephon Diggs for the rest of the season with a torn ACL.
I think there's too many issues in Houston.
Too many injuries, yeah.
Baltimore, I know, obviously they got Deontay Johnson, but that's really not enough to.
If anyone is rooting against the Chiefs, the only hope, in my opinion, right now is that the Bills' offense is incredible too, and you got to hope that the Bills finally get over that Kansas City hump that they have struggled to get over. But I don't know if that's going to happen.
And Baltimore really could have won the last 2 times they played.
Yeah.
I mean, but they just choke for whatever reason. But I think this is a good trade.
Absolutely. One other story here involving another AFC team. Anthony Richardson has been benched. Joe Flacco is the quarterback in Indianapolis once again. Supposedly, they feel like in previous statements they had talked about wanting to see Richardson on the field, and that's going to be the best way that he develops as a player. But now apparently they're having second thoughts, and maybe him playing behind Joe Flacco is going to help. Apparently Richardson was hit hard by the news, but is handling everything in a professional manner. I guess the one question is, I mean, it's not like the Colts were in a bad situation. They're 4-4. They're not in a great situation, but they're not in a terrible situation like the Jags are, like the Giants are, like the Jets are. So why did it make this change?
I want to go back to one statement that was made during the game.
Is it the tired remark?
Yes. And that was probably really stupid on Anthony Richardson's part to make the statement. Oh, I went over to my coach and said I'm tired and I need to be taken out. Like, what is that?
Is that what he wanted to say, or is that what his coaches?
No, everyone is saying that he's the one who said, take me out. I'm tired. Well, that means you're not in great condition as an NFL player, are you?
I mean, the one thing I will give is that under Joe Flacco, the Colts offense actually looked pretty good.
They look amazing under him, which is unreal. Like, so
it's amazing what Joe Flacco, the way that he filled in for the Browns towards the end of last season, and now the way that he's performing with Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, this guy has the prototypical 9 lives, like a cat. I mean,
so then it leaves us asking one question as we end the show, Nick: is Joe Flacco elite?
No. He can give you like 3 or 4 good games in a row. He'll make everyone look better because he somehow, I mean, they freaking got him off the couch last year. I mean, it's not saying much, but this is an official benching, is what they're saying. So it looks like they're going to be playing Flacco for a little while here.
You just hope that Richardson grows a little more. Hopefully just sitting and watching.
So ex-NFL quarterback Chase Daniel, who does a podcast with, I'm forgetting her name, the NFL Insider. Diana Rossini.
Yeah.
Said that Anthony Richardson lost everyone's respect after saying he was tired. Now, I don't know if I'd go that far per se. That's a massive statement to make, but it is a little odd. I'll say that.
He is also, Nick, and I don't want to defend the comment because I get what you're saying, but he is also 21, 22 years old.
And he's been hurt.
He's been hurt, exactly. I think when he was drafted before he actually turned 21. He was still 20 during the time of the draft. So he's still young.
I also think this is going to be a bold comparison, but like it's almost a little bit like Lamar from the early standpoint of trying to build who he is. Remember when Lamar came up and was really trying to find his way? Lamar was doing too much. Way too much. He thought he was running the football by himself and he wasn't throwing the ball enough. And he was getting hurt at certain points. Now, I see that a little bit in Anthony Richardson, where he's trying to do too much. He's trying to...
He needs to be healthy. I don't know if I would go as far as losing the respect of the locker room.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
The comment of the tiredness, but he had a season-ending injury last season in his rookie campaign. He was already hurt this season. He needs to be healthy.
He's a young quarterback. I saw a tweet earlier that a lot of quarterbacks, like, is the NFL having a developmental problem with young quarterbacks? And because they're drafting guys so early out of college, they're 21, 22, 23 years old. They're very young. And they don't have enough time to develop out of the college game into an NFL-style player. So maybe that's part of the situation. He didn't have enough development to really get where he needs to get.
Well, let's hope he gets that development over the next several weeks, because I want Anthony Richardson to have a long and successful career.
I think he's shown a lot of potential to be a
Mhm.
good quarterback, but I also think the Colts are not exactly the best team either, between all the injuries they've had and everything that's going on.
Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Make sure to follow us across social media on Twitter, AAX, Instagram, TikTok, at ETV Sports and at ETV Network. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETV Network. Please help us get to 900 subscribers. Help us with our climb to 1,000. If you can't watch, make sure to listen on the audio side, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you are listening on those platforms, come to our YouTube home and hit our base and hit the subscribe. And of course, shout out to our friends again over at Playback. We've got the NBA whip around that's going on right now. So make sure you flip right over here. Flip right over there to playback.tv/ETV Network for our little NBA whip around. We'll have more NBA games coming up. I think it's the week of Veterans Day where Zan, Pat, and I will be back for another fight study, because that's the week of 309. Plenty of stuff going on with Playback.
It's scary to think that we're 2 months away from the end of 2024.
Well, yeah, we are entering our last, month and a half of programming?
Yeah, so quickly, December 14th is kind of our target date for the end of the year of all ETB Network programming. Excuse me.
The football shows will go on.
Yeah, football forecast will go on. Forever Power 5 college football show will go on. You guys are working out outsiders because there's still some stuff in the calendar going.
Yeah.
But everything else will be best of. So look forward to the year in reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, that's going to do it for us. Anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's pretty much it. A lot of news we came off of after a week off. Mm-hmm. See, it's weird when we take a week off because then everything piles up into a spot. But that'll do it for episode 255. He's telling about. I'm Nick Morgasen. We will see you next week for episode 256. Have a good night, everybody.